Hey everybody, it's Julie. Welcome to Hello Monday. Normally, when I use colored pencils, I reach for white cardstock, but sometimes I would like to do my colored pencil work on a craft cardstock, but it's hard to get them to show up. But if you use white pigment ink first with your stamping, this is a great way to get your colored pencil work to really pop and show up well on that craft cardstock. So I've already made a 4¼ inch square note card from craft cardstock, and I'm going to go ahead and place that into my mini MISTI, and I'm just going to let the back side of the card hang out there. It's not going to impede anything when I'm doing my stamping, and I'm just choosing the images I want to work with and kind of pre-planning my layout here. And then I'll go ahead and close the lid to get the solid part of that pineapple mounted to the lid. And then I'm going to ink up with Hero Art's Unicorn pigment ink. This is a really nice white pigment ink, and it took me a little bit of time to get it inked up because my pad is kind of dry, so you probably wouldn't need to do this if your pad is well inked. So I need to get a re-inker. And then I just had to wipe off some of the residual ink that got on the lid there with a baby wipe. And I'm going to do this twice to make sure I get a really nice white background there because my pad is dry and I need to really re-ink it. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab the crown of the pineapple and get that into place. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing, ink up with the unicorn ink and go ahead and stamp it. Now I will probably have to stamp it twice to get the intensity of white that I want there on the craft cardstock. So now I'm going to grab the detail image from the stamp set and go ahead and get that positioned where I want. I don't mind having an offset look, but I just want to make sure I'm not super, out of alignment on that. Go ahead and get the mounted to the lid there, and then I'll ink up with the Hero Arts Unicorn ink once again. And I'll probably need to stamp this twice to get those detail lines to show up strongly for me so that they can be used as a guide while I'm doing my colored pencil work. So once that's done and in place, I can go ahead and grab my heat gun and start heating all of this up. I want to have that pigment ink completely dry before I start coloring. Now I'm going to be working with the Derwent Inktense pencils. These are actually watercolored pencils, but they can be used dry or wet. And you may find that when you're doing this particular technique, you'll get even better blending results with regular colored pencils than you do with a watercolor type pencil. But because they can be used dry or wet, I'm just going to go ahead and use them in this fashion. And I'm starting out with a really nice pale green color, kind of like a pale chartreuse. And I'm going to go ahead and color in the details on the pineapple there on the left-hand side. Oops, my pencils all just kind of rolled off the screen there. They didn't roll off the floor, roll off the table and hit the floor though, so thank goodness. I had my coffee mug there to stop them. Okay, so now I'm going to grab the deeper yellow color and start filling in those details there. And again, I'm using the detail lines of the pineapple image to guide me as I'm coloring in those spaces. And I'm just going to fill in that whole center section and the rest of those details with that darker yellow to give me pretty much the foundation color of my pineapple. Now I don't just want a flat color here on my pineapple, so I'm going to come in with a deeper orange color and start doing just a little bit of shading around the edges there. And I'm going to allow that deeper yellow to show through, but it's going to give the impression of more dimension by doing some shading around the outer edges and just kind of a little bit of outlining. And you'll notice that I rotate the paper when I'm doing my colored pencil work, and the direction of my pencil strokes, they all go in the same direction. I like the way that looks. Now you can do other techniques where you're doing some cross hatching and things like that, but I'm pretty simple when it comes to my coloring work, and I like to have all of those going in the same direction. So I'm just going to rotate the paper as I need to keep going in that same direction with my pencil strokes, and I'll just fill in all of these images as far as the outer edges go with a little bit of shading, and you'll really start to see things pop as I get towards the end. Now it's time to start coloring the crown of the pineapple, and I'm going to grab a kind of a spring green color out of my pile of pencils there and start filling in those leaves there that are coming out the top of the pineapple. And I'm going to follow the direction of the pineapple fronds there. I don't know what they call those. I'm just going to call them fronds, I guess, for lack of a better word. And they're going, vertical. So my pencil strokes are going to be more vertical and curved, just following those image lines. And I'm going to get the whole thing filled in with a base color of this spring green. And then I can go ahead and grab a darker green pencil to start adding some shading and definition around the edges. And this is really going to help that have a much more visually interesting look than if it were flat color. I wanted to give the pineapple even more definition, so I'm going to grab the orange pencil and add some shading along the left-hand side, and I'm using the detail line of the image there to guide me as I apply the shading. And you'll notice the white ink peeking on the right-hand side is going to act as a highlight. Now, I often stop when I'm working to kind of assess the progress and whether or not I'm really liking that and want to keep going with it, or if I want to toss it. I liked what I was getting here, so I decided to go ahead and grab the sentiment. So I'm going to load this card right back into my Mini Misty, anchor it down with the magnet there, and grab the sentiment that I had planned on using. And pretty much it's going to get positioned exactly where I had planned originally. So I'll close the lid, get that mounted to the lid, and then I'm going to ink up with Brilliance Graphite Black. I want a real high contrast here, and Brilliance Graphite Black is my favorite black ink. And I hadn't re-inked the pad in a while, just like the unicorn one, so I didn't get it quite as rich and dark as I wanted. No problem. I just have to leave everything in place and re-ink the stamp one more time and go ahead and stamp it a second time. And because everything stays in place there, it's easy to get that just impressed in the exact same spot. No one will ever know I stamped it twice. And then I decided I wanted just a little bit more accent there on the pineapple crown. So I grabbed the lightest color of green colored pencil and went ahead over the top. And I just felt that kind of added just a hint of kind of a yellowish color to give my crown just a little bit more visual interest. And then I'm just going to DIY some enamel dots using my Nouveau Crystal Drops. I went direct onto my project. Normally, I like to make these in advance on a carrier sheet and pop them off and glue them down, because then I can kind of plan much better where they're going to go. But I was kind of winging it on this one. And then when I was done, I was like, oh, I don't like the balance of that. So I really like to make them ahead of time. So this was kind of like, oh, I don't normally do it this way. So now that I've got them on there, I'm going to flick underneath just to make sure they're leveling out and not going to end up with any peaks on the top. And you can see how nicely they dried. I've got a nice high gloss white Nouveau drop there, simulating those enamel dots. And then I added just a little strip of pattern paper to accent the card. We have more still shots at the Classroom blog, and all the supplies are available at ellenhutson.com. Thanks for watching.